Stop waiting for the right mood. Stop negotiating with your feelings. Success is not built by emotion, it's built by systems. Systems that work when you're tired. Systems that function when you're uninspired. Systems that move your life forward when your motivation disappears. You don't need to feel ready, you need a structure that runs automatically. In this audiobook, you'll learn 50 systems that build progress, discipline, and consistency, no matter how you feel. This is not about getting motivated. This is about becoming inevitable. Chapter 1. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to feel ready. That's the first system. That's the first rule. That's the foundation of everything that follows. Readiness is an illusion. Motivation is a mirage. You think you need to feel confident before you start, but that feeling never arrives. You wait for clarity, but clarity only comes from movement. You wait for courage, but courage is built through repetition. You move first. Feelings follow. That's the key. Every successful person you admire, every athlete, entrepreneur, creator, soldier, they don't act because they feel ready. They act until readiness becomes irrelevant. You have a choice. Keep waiting for motivation or start building momentum. You have a choice. Chase emotion or construct structure. You have a choice. Be a reactor or become a builder. You must stop believing the lie that you need to feel a certain way before you begin. Because the truth is simple. Action doesn't follow confidence. Confidence follows action. The system begins the moment you decide that motion matters more than mood. Think about an athlete. Rain or shine. Game day or not. They train. They don't ask, do I feel like it today? They already decided. Their training schedule is a system. It doesn't care about their feelings. It doesn't bend to their mood. That's why they win. It's not about passion. It's about preparation. It's not about hype. It's about habit. It's not about the moment. It's about the method. You move first. Feelings follow. Every morning you hesitate, you teach your brain that comfort matters more than commitment. Every time you delay, you reinforce weakness. You train your nervous system to negotiate with discipline. You don't need another motivational speech. You need a pre-decided pattern, something that executes before your mind has a chance to interfere. That's what systems do. Systems remove debate. Systems silence hesitation. Systems eliminate the question, do I feel like it? You don't have to feel ready. You just have to act like someone who's ready until that behavior becomes who you are. The truth is, high performers aren't fearless. They've just built structures that carry them through fear. They've automated their start. If you talk to a marathon runner, they'll tell you, the hardest part isn't the 26 miles. It's the first 100 meters. Because that's where resistance lives. That's where the inner voice whispers, you're tired. You can skip today. But the system answers back, we start anyway. And the moment you start, the resistance weakens. The fog clears. The energy builds. You move first. Feelings follow. Here's the system to build. Pre-decide your start time. Not when I feel like it, but at 7 a.m. I begin. This removes the trap of decision fatigue. The time is fixed. The action is fixed. You just show up. Eliminate the emotional trigger. Don't wait for a mood to inspire action. Create a physical cue that starts the process. Shoes by the bed, laptop open, light on. That cue is your starter pistol. Honor the rule of momentum. Start small, finish strong. 5 minutes of action beats an hour of hesitation. Once you start, your brain aligns. The system engages. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about never doing nothing. That's the key. Listen carefully. Motivation is not the spark, it's the result. You don't get motivated and then act. You act and then you become motivated. That's why waiting to feel ready kills progress. You spend years at the starting line, convincing yourself that tomorrow will feel better. But tomorrow never feels better, because your system doesn't exist yet. The people you think are disciplined aren't superhuman. They've just built a routine that begins before their brain wakes up to protest. That's the system. You set your cue. You start. You finish. No emotion. No debate. No delay. Let's make this practical. When you wake up tomorrow, your first system begins before your thoughts do. The alarm rings, you stand up. Not think. not scroll. Stand up. That's your microsystem. That's your first win of the day. When the first 10 seconds and the rest of the day obeys you. It sounds simple. It is simple. That's why it works. Complexity kills consistency. Simplicity builds systems. You move first. Feelings follow. Here's what you must remember. Readiness is not a feeling, it's a pattern of execution. You will never be fully prepared for your next chapter, your next business, your next challenge. And that's okay. Because systems don't need permission. Systems don't need perfect conditions. Systems just need repetition. You're not training for comfort, you're training for consistency. That's the mindset that separates the elite from the average. Average people wait for energy. Successful people create it. You don't need their permission. You don't need your mood's approval. You just need your system to start, and your body will catch up. Let's talk about resistance again. Resistance is clever. It disguises itself as logic. It whispers, "You're not ready," but it's lying. You're not supposed to be ready. You're supposed to begin. If you only act when you feel ready, you'll live your entire life in preparation mode. And the world doesn't reward preparation, it rewards execution. That's the key. The difference between a dreamer and a doer isn't talent. It's tolerance. Tolerance for discomfort, for uncertainty, for messy starts. Doers build systems that tolerate the friction of imperfection. Dreamers wait for the feeling of readiness, a feeling that never comes. Here's a truth most people ignore. Motivation fades because it depends on emotion. Systems last because they depend on repetition. Emotion changes. Systems repeat. When you stop waiting for the perfect moment, you take control of time itself. You reclaim your days from hesitation. You give structure to chaos. That's what winners do. They systemize their starting line. You don't have to feel powerful to take a powerful step. You just have to take it. And once you take it, your brain rewires. The system grows stronger. The hesitation grows weaker. You move first. Feelings follow. If there's one sentence to burn into your mind, it's this. Action is the architect of confidence. You don't think your way into readiness. You act your way into it. Every rep, every early morning, every uncomfortable start, they're all bricks in the system. Bricks that build a foundation unshaken by mood swings or doubt. You don't need hype. You need a habit. You don't need to feel ready. You need to start anyway. Because readiness is not the trigger, it's the reward. You move first. Feelings follow. You've just learned the first system, the system of movement before motivation. Every time you act without permission from your emotions, you strengthen that muscle. And soon it becomes who you are. You don't wait. You move. You don't think. You execute. You don't seek readiness. You create it. You've mastered hesitation. Now it's time to master control. Because action is one thing, sustaining it is another. You learn to start. Now let's build the environment that keeps you moving forward. Chapter 2. Build a routine that survives emotion. You don't need a perfect morning. You need a repeatable one. You don't need to wake up inspired. You need to wake up and execute. That's the truth. That's the difference. That's the system. Perfection is fragile. Emotion is unreliable. But structure? Structure survives. The goal isn't to feel great every day, it's to perform well even when you don't. That's what separates professionals from amateurs. That's what builds consistency that doesn't crack under pressure. Predictable actions create unstoppable outcomes. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your systems. And if your system depends on how you feel, it will collapse the first time your emotions shift. So stop trying to design the perfect day. Design a predictable one. Your life changes when your routine stops being emotional and starts being automatic. You don't decide whether to show up. You just show up. You don't decide whether to train. You just train. You don't decide whether to work. You just work. Decision fatigue kills discipline. Every time you give yourself the option, you invite hesitation. That's why the most disciplined people seem robotic. They're not robots, they're free. Because every important decision has already been made in advance. They've built anchors. Same time. Same trigger. Same place. Every day. That's the key. Predictable actions create unstoppable outcomes. Let's be clear. You don't need more variety, you need more repetition. Variety excites the emotional brain. Repetition strengthens the disciplined one. When you repeat a process daily, your brain begins to associate that cue with performance. It becomes a reflex. You don't have to convince yourself. You just have to begin. That's what an anchor does. An anchor tells your mind, this is who we are. This is what we do now. It removes the question mark. If your routine is different every day, your results will be inconsistent. If your routine is predictable, your results will be inevitable. Here's what most people get wrong. They design routines around how they want to feel. They imagine the perfect morning. Meditation, journaling, green juice, silence, sunshine. And the moment life gets messy, the schedule breaks, the motivation fades, and the structure disappears. Because emotion-built routines collapse under stress. But systems-built routines thrive on repetition. You don't need a perfect morning. You need a process that runs even when you don't feel like running it. The best performers don't create routines they love. They create routines they can't avoid. Predictable actions create unstoppable outcomes. Let's talk about anchors in action. Think of a soldier. Every morning the uniform is laid out. The boots are polished. The bed is made with precision. It's not about the bed. It's not about the boots. It's about the message, I control the start of my day. That's the system. An unbreakable anchor that signals, the mission begins. You can build the same structure. Set your anchors in stone. Same time, wake up at a fixed hour. No debate. No snooze. Same trigger. A cue that launches your system. The alarm, the light, the music. Same place. A physical space that belongs to your progress. Your environment should feel like a command, not a question. When you step into it, your brain should know exactly what comes next. That's the power of anchors. You move past emotion and into execution. Emotions are waves. Systems are the shore. If your day is built on emotion, it gets washed away. If it's built on systems, it holds steady. Discipline doesn't remove emotion, it outlasts it. That's the secret no one tells you. The most consistent people don't feel better than you. They've just built routines that survive their feelings. They still get tired. They still get frustrated. They still doubt themselves. But they have a structure that catches them when they fall. That's what your system must do, catch you when emotion drops you. Predictable actions create unstoppable outcomes. Here's the practical part. To build a routine that survives emotion, you must remove choice. Every choice burns energy. Every decision drains willpower. So remove the need to decide. Preset everything. Automate everything. Simplify everything. Lay out your clothes the night before. Prepare your workspace in advance. Use a timer or app to start your work automatically. You're not building a schedule, you're building momentum. You want your first action of the day to trigger the next automatically, like falling dominoes. When the system runs itself, emotion becomes irrelevant. You have to stop treating your routines like feelings and start treating them like contracts. When you show up every day regardless of how you feel, you send a message to your subconscious, I can trust myself. That trust compounds. It becomes confidence. It becomes calm. And eventually, it becomes your identity. You're no longer someone who tries to be disciplined. You're someone who is disciplined. And when discipline becomes identity, emotion loses power. That's the point of all this, to remove fragility from your consistency. Because fragile routines die in bad moods. Strong systems thrive in chaos. You have to understand, the emotional mind wants flexibility. The disciplined mind wants structure. You can't serve both. So you must choose. Do you want excitement or do you want results? Do you want flexibility or do you want freedom? Because real freedom isn't doing what you want. Real freedom is being in control when you don't want to do it. That's what a system gives you. It turns chaos into rhythm. It turns discipline into peace. You don't wake up wondering anymore. You just execute. That's freedom. Predictable actions create unstoppable outcomes. Understand this clearly. Every day you wake up, you're building one of two systems. A system of reaction or a system of command. Reaction is emotional. Command is intentional. Emotion says, I'll see how I feel. Command says, this is what I do. If you want unstoppable outcomes, you need predictable actions. And predictable actions come from a routine built to survive emotion. You have a choice right now. You can keep designing days around moods, or you can build a system that performs on autopilot. You can keep seeking inspiration, or you can build rhythm. You can keep chasing the feeling, or you can become the machine. That's the key. Because once your routine is predictable, your progress is guaranteed. The average person loses to their emotions daily. The disciplined person builds a structure that doesn't care. And that structure wins every single time. Predictable actions create unstoppable outcomes. You've learned to stop waiting to feel ready. Now you've learned to build a routine that functions when emotion fails. Next, we're going deeper, beyond routine, beyond repetition, into the environment that sustains it all. You've mastered consistency. Now it's time to master control of your surroundings. Chapter 3. Design environments that force discipline. Discipline doesn't start in your head. It starts in your environment. Success is not a willpower problem. It's a design problem. If your surroundings make bad decisions easy and good decisions hard, no amount of motivation will save you. If you want to win, you have to design a life that makes success the path of least resistance. That's the truth most people never hear. Discipline is not about strength, it's about setup. Don't rely on strength, rely on setup. Your setup is stronger than your willpower. Your setup is what decides who you become when you're tired, distracted, or overwhelmed. Because when your environment is engineered for success, discipline becomes automatic. Think about this, your environment trains you every single day. If your workspace is cluttered, your mind is cluttered. If your kitchen is filled with junk food, you've already lost tomorrow's diet. If your phone is next to your bed, you've already sacrificed your focus before you wake up. Your environment is always shaping you, either by design or by default. That's the key. Most people build environments that demand willpower every 5 minutes. They expect themselves to be strong, every hour, every day. But willpower is like a battery, it drains. And when it drains, your environment takes over. So stop trying to be stronger. Start building smarter. Don't rely on strength, rely on setup. Here's the truth, the strongest people aren't always the most disciplined. They're the most prepared. A Navy SEAL doesn't rely on willpower to wake up early. His entire environment is built for it. A top athlete doesn't rely on motivation to train. The equipment is ready. The schedule is locked. The habit is anchored. They've built an ecosystem that rewards the right behavior automatically. Your job is to do the same. Start with your physical environment. Look around right now. Every object either helps or hurts your discipline. There's no neutral ground. The gym bag by the door helps. The phone on your desk hurts. The clutter, the notifications, the comfort zones, they all drain focus before you even start. So design friction where you need restraint, and remove friction where you need action. That's the formula. Make good habits easy. Make bad habits inconvenient. If you want to read more, leave the book on the pillow. If you want to work out, keep the gym shoes in sight. If you want to stop scrolling, charge your phone across the room. You don't need to fight temptation if it's not near you. You don't need more willpower if your environment removes the option to fail. Don't rely on strength, rely on setup. Now let's move to your digital environment. The modern world is built to break your focus. Notifications, feeds, updates, all engineered to hijack your mind. So if you want discipline, you must re-engineer your digital landscape. Turn off alerts that don't serve your mission. Unfollow noise that feeds distraction. Delete apps that turn minutes into hours of wasted time. Your phone should be a tool, not a trap. If it controls your attention, it controls your future. Your environment extends to every screen you own. Control what you see, or what you see will control you. Then there's your social environment. Who you spend time with shapes what you tolerate. If you're surrounded by people who make excuses, you'll start making them too. If you're surrounded by people who execute, you'll start moving faster. Proximity is power. If you can't change your circle immediately, change your inputs. Replace small talk with podcasts. Replace gossip with learning. Replace comfort with challenge. The people around you either sharpen your edge or dull your purpose. That's design. That's setup. And you are responsible for it. Don't rely on strength, rely on setup. Let's talk about your mental environment. What you allow in your mind becomes the atmosphere of your thoughts. If your inner dialogue is negative, no system will survive long-term. So build mental setups the same way you build physical ones. Create mantras, not moods. Repeat reminders that anchor you to discipline. This is what I do. It's not about feeling ready. Predictable actions create unstoppable outcomes. These are not words. They are internal anchors. They are mental setups. When your thoughts spiral, the setup pulls you back to the system. That's how you protect consistency from chaos. Understand this. Your environment can make you stronger than motivation ever could. You don't need to feel inspired when your surroundings do the heavy lifting. You don't need to resist temptation when it doesn't exist. You don't need to rely on discipline when your system eliminates failure by design. That's how professionals operate. Every cue, every layout, every object, engineered to support execution. They don't hope to do the right thing. Their environment forces it. Don't rely on strength, rely on setup. Here's the truth. Discipline is not heroic. Strategic. You can't outfight a bad setup. You can't outperform an environment that works against you. So make it impossible to fail. If you want to write, make opening the laptop your trigger. If you want to wake up early, put the alarm far from the bed. If you want to save money, automate the transfer before you can touch it. These small setups remove the need to be strong. They make success mechanical. And when success becomes mechanical, emotion becomes irrelevant. That's the power of environment. It turns discipline into default behavior. You have to decide what your environment says about you, because your space tells a story. A clean workspace says, I'm ready. A cluttered one says, I'm confused. A well-designed routine says, I'm intentional. A messy one says, I'm reactive. You teach yourself who you are through your surroundings. If your environment looks like chaos, your mind will act like chaos. If your environment looks like order, your mind will follow suit. The outside reflects the inside, and the inside follows the outside. Don't rely on strength, rely on setup. From this moment forward, your mission is simple. Stop trying to be stronger. Start designing smarter. Set up your life so that doing the right thing is effortless, and doing the wrong thing feels impossible. Remove temptation. Build triggers. Create anchors. Your future will follow your setup. Because success isn't built in the moment you decide. It's built in the environment that shapes those decisions. You don't need more strength. You need better systems. And the system begins with where you live, where you work, and where you think. That's how you make discipline automatic. Don't rely on strength, rely on setup. You've now built a system that works around emotion. You've learned to design an environment that supports your goals. But environment alone isn't enough. You must now transform repetition into identity. Because systems fail when identity is weak. You've built the setup. Now you'll become the person who belongs in it. Chapter 4. Turn habits into identity. You don't rise to your habits. You rise to who you believe you are. That's the truth most people never face. They focus on what to do, but they ignore who they are becoming while doing it. You can build routines. You can design systems. You can set alarms, habits, and goals. But if you still see yourself as inconsistent, lazy, or undisciplined, you will always find a way to prove yourself right. Because behavior follows belief. Your actions will always align with your identity. That's why systems fail when identity is weak. You can't outperform your self-image. You can't out-discipline a belief that says, I'm not the kind of person who finishes things. Your mind will sabotage your progress to stay consistent with your label. That's why the most powerful transformation doesn't start with a habit. It starts with a statement. I'm the kind of person who follows through. That's where it begins. Once you believe that, every system strengthens. Every habit deepens. Every setback becomes temporary. Systems fail when identity is weak. Let's talk about how this actually works. Every time you take an action, you're not just doing something, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you believe you are. When you work out, you cast a vote for, I'm disciplined. When you read, you cast a vote for, I'm focused. When you keep a promise to yourself, you cast a vote for, I can be trusted. You don't need perfection. You just need enough votes to make the identity undeniable. That's how real transformation sticks. Not by changing habits temporarily, but by changing identity permanently. Systems fail when identity is weak. Most people chase outcomes. They say, I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to make more money. I want to be more productive. But that mindset keeps you stuck in a cycle of conditional worth. You only feel good when the results appear. That's fragile. That's emotional. Instead, attach your self-worth to consistency, not to results. You say, I'm proud because I kept the promise. You say, I respect myself because I showed up. You say, I win because I followed through, not because I finished first. That's the mental shift that builds permanent discipline. You're no longer chasing outcomes, you're protecting identity. And identity doesn't break when results are slow. Systems fail when identity is weak. Think about this. You don't become confident after success. You become confident after consistency. Confidence isn't built by achievement. It's built by evidence. Every time you show up, you build evidence that says, this is who I am now. Every time you follow through, you reinforce that identity. And soon, discipline stops being effort. It becomes nature. You no longer think, I have to. You think, this is what I do. That's the transformation. That's the moment when your habits stop feeling forced and start feeling like home. Systems fail when identity is weak. Here's the mistake people make. They try to create habits without changing the story they tell themselves. They say, I'm just not consistent. They say, I'm bad at routines. They say, I always lose focus. Those phrases are not harmless. They're programming. Every time you repeat them, you reinforce an identity that destroys your system. Because the brain always wants to be right about who it thinks it is. If you believe you're inconsistent, you will subconsciously act inconsistent to protect that belief. That's why self-talk is not a pep talk. It's code. It's wiring. If you want to live differently, you must speak differently. You have to stop saying, I'm trying, and start saying, I do. I'm not trying to be disciplined, I am disciplined. I'm not hoping to stay focused, I am focused. I'm not wishing for consistency, I live in consistency. Every word is a blueprint. Every affirmation is a design. Systems fail when identity is weak. Let's get practical. You build identity by stacking small, undeniable wins. If you want to be the kind of person who read 2 pages a day. If you want to be the kind of person who trains, show up for 10 minutes. If you want to be the kind of person who keeps promises, start with one, and keep it every single day. Don't wait for massive progress. Wait for internal proof. Proof is power. Because once your brain sees evidence that you follow through, it will fight to protect that truth. That's when the system becomes self-sustaining. Systems fail when identity is weak. Let's look at how elite performers think. An athlete doesn't say, I'm training to become a professional. They say, I am an athlete. A writer doesn't say, I'm trying to write. They say, I'm a writer. A disciplined person doesn't say, I'm hoping to stay consistent. They say, I do this because it's who I am. They attach identity before the evidence appears, and the evidence follows. That's how you lock in consistency. Your habits must serve your identity, not the other way around. Your actions must confirm who you believe yourself to be. Systems fail when identity is weak. Now, let's talk about the danger of outcome obsession. When your focus is on results, failure destroys your self-worth. But when your focus is on identity, failure just becomes feedback. If you miss a day, you don't say, I failed. You say, I'm still the kind of person who follows through, and tomorrow I prove it again. That's power. That's self-command. That's identity-based discipline. When your self-image is stable, your behavior can't be broken by emotion. Systems fail when identity is weak. Here's the truth, you don't get what you want. You get what you are. You can't hope your way into new behavior. You must become the kind of person who behaves differently. You want to be focused? Start identifying as someone who doesn't waste energy on distractions. You want to be consistent? Start identifying as someone who keeps promises no matter what. You want to be disciplined? Start identifying as someone who executes without emotion. Identity first, results second. Because when you change who you are, what you do becomes automatic. That's the system. Systems fail when identity is weak. From this moment forward, every action you take must align with the story you want to tell about yourself. You're not doing these habits for results. You're doing them to confirm your new identity. You're not showing up to prove anything to anyone else. You're showing up to prove yourself right, that you are the kind of person who follows through. Because when your identity is strong, your system becomes unbreakable. You don't need willpower to stay consistent. Your self-image won't allow you to quit. That's how lasting change works. That's how you become inevitable. Systems fail when identity is weak. You've built the habits. You've claimed the identity. Now it's time to make execution effortless. The next step is turning discipline into automation, creating systems that think for you, move for you, and work when you can't. You've become the person who follows through. Now you'll learn to let your systems do the same. Chapter 5. Automate your success triggers. You don't need more motivation. You need automation. Motivation is fragile. It disappears when life gets uncomfortable. Automation doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't wait for permission. It executes. That's why the most successful people don't chase inspiration. They build systems that think for them when they can't think clearly. They've learned a truth that most people never will. Automation is freedom disguised as discipline. You see, real freedom isn't doing whatever you feel like doing. Real freedom is being able to do what must be done, no matter how you feel. The world celebrates flexibility, but flexibility without structure is chaos. You don't need more options. You need fewer decisions. When you build automation into your life, you remove hesitation. When you remove hesitation, you remove failure. Because hesitation is where most dreams die, not in failure but in pause. Automation doesn't pause. Automation moves. Automation is freedom disguised as discipline. Think about elite performers. They don't wake up asking, "Do I feel like training today?" The schedule decides. They don't ask, "Should I focus or relax?" The system decides. They don't rely on emotion. They rely on design. A checklist, a timer, a process. Simple, repeatable, emotion-proof. That's how they keep winning when others burn out. Because success isn't built on how you feel, it's built on what you've built. Automation is freedom disguised as discipline. Here's the real problem. Most people spend their lives making the same decisions over and over. They decide every day when to wake up, when to start, when to stop, what to eat, whether to work, whether to rest. Every small decision drains focus. Every ounce of hesitation costs momentum. That's called decision fatigue, and it's the silent killer of consistency. So what do the greats do? They eliminate the need to decide. They set triggers. They use cues. They design rituals that make the right action automatic. Wake up, glass of water, stretch, work. Alarm rings, gym clothes on, no debate. Laptop open, phone in another room, focus begins. That's automation. That's how you make the system stronger than your mood. Automation is freedom disguised as discipline. Automation doesn't make you robotic. It makes you reliable. The difference between amateurs and professionals isn't talent. It's predictability. Professionals execute whether they feel like it or not. They trust the process more than their emotions. They've built a system that protects their purpose. And that's what you must do now. Design your life around triggers that eliminate thinking. The alarm is the cue. The schedule is the trigger. The action is automatic. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your systems. And the system doesn't care about your excuses. That's why automation wins. Automation is freedom disguised as discipline. Here's the paradox. Automation feels restrictive at first, but it's the doorway to peace. When you automate, you're not trapped. You're free. Free from indecision. Free from guilt. Free from wasted energy. Because every cue you create is one less moment of hesitation. Every trigger you build is one less argument with yourself. Every system you run is one more day of progress. Automation is not punishment. It's protection. You're protecting your purpose from your feelings. You're protecting your focus from the world's chaos. You're protecting your future from your own procrastination. Automation is freedom disguised as discipline. Let's make it real. Here's how you build your personal automation network. Step 1. Schedule the non-negotiables. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. Your workout, your reading, your planning, block it, repeat it, live it. Time is your most honest system. Step 2. Anchor the actions. Attach every key behavior to a physical or environmental trigger. The notebook on your desk signals reflection. The shoes by the door signal movement. The silence before bed signals gratitude. Step 3. Repeat without emotion. Don't celebrate or complain. Just execute. When the trigger fires, move. No debate. It's simple. It's powerful. It's permanent. Automation is freedom disguised as discipline. And here's what happens over time. You start to realize that your systems are doing the heavy lifting. You don't wake up in chaos anymore. You wake up in rhythm. You don't think about discipline anymore. You live inside it. You don't chase control. You become control. Because automation doesn't just build consistency, it builds identity. You're no longer trying to be focused. You are focus. You're no longer hoping to be disciplined. You are discipline. That's what happens when your systems become an extension of who you are. That's what happens when structure becomes self-respect. Automation is freedom disguised as discipline. Now, as this audiobook closes, remember this. You were never meant to rely on feelings. You were meant to build frameworks. Motivation is the spark, but automation is the engine. Habits create momentum, but systems sustain mastery. You've learned how to build routines that survive emotion. You've learned how to design environments that force discipline. You've learned how to turn habits into identity. And now you've learned how to automate your success triggers, how to make winning inevitable. This is how high performers live. They don't wait for good days. They build good systems. You can do the same. Because your future doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on what you've built. Automation is freedom disguised as discipline. You are now at the point of no return. The systems you design today will define who you are next year. So make a choice. Build automation that protects your goals. Let your triggers lead you. Let your schedule serve you. Let your environment support you. You are no longer a person who hopes. You are a person who executes. You don't need to feel ready. You need to be reliable. You don't need more motivation. You need automation. Because that's what separates the dreamers from the doers, the ones who wait from the ones who win, the ones who build systems that work even when they don't. This is your reminder. Automation is freedom disguised as discipline. And your system starts now.